Well, welcome to another episode of the Reach Your Prime podcast. I'm your host, Jared Barnes, and absolutely ecstatic today. We have a very special guest in Mr. Tim Worley. Tim, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Jared.
Man, I am still blown away by Tim's accolades and accomplishments. Former first-round NFL draft pick from the University of Georgia, had a tremendous collegiate and NFL career. North Carolina native, so me being a North Carolina resident, we have that connection. He is currently based in Charlotte, and also the co-founder of Worley Global Enterprises, one of the best I've seen to make the transition from athletics into the business world, and now being able to take his message, take his experiences and learnings and share them on a large scale, and has built a just incredible platform that truly impacts people. And real quick, if you just wanted to give the real story and the background to your journey for our audience here.
Like you said, I'm a native of North Carolina, Lumberton, and born and raised pretty much back then in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, factory town, tobacco industry. Both my mother and father are still living, married 56 years, and both factory workers that retired. I come from a big family, not a whole lot of money, but a whole lot of love. And my mother and father made sure we had what we needed to live and to do the things that we needed to do. I wasn't the only athlete in my family. I had some older brothers and a younger brother that were just as good as I was in sports. Sports was all we had. You know, a lot of people, I was pretty much raised in a farming-like area. My grandmother, she raised hogs and chickens and stuff, and we ran around barefoot. You could pretty much call me country. One of the things that I was able to do, and I noticed real quick about myself, Jared, was that I love sports, and everything that I touched. Baseball was my true first love, and I gave it up when I was about 16 years old, just to get more focused on track and field and football. But when I was 16, I was actually throwing a fastball at about 92 miles an hour. But one of the things that what people didn't know about me, and I've always wanted to be a businessman. Throughout all my success as an athlete, I always wanted to be that businessman, to own a business one day. But one of the things that hindered me and prevented me was a lie that I believed about myself since I was age 10. And when I was age 10, I had a school teacher and a family member called me stupid. And I believed this lie about myself for over 30 years. With that lie, believing that lie, I told myself, in every way, don't expect too much of me from the neck up, because all it was fear to compete in the classroom. But At the same time, that's when I was discovering that I had a gift to play any sport. So what did I do? I took and I put all my energy and effort into football, basketball, baseball, and track and field. But what it did, man, it left a scar on me. And so, going through school, I always had this thing that, to me, that I wasn't smart enough. And this thing followed me all the way up, man, until I was in my middle 30s, man. It caused me problems because after football, I really didn't know what to do with myself. I put all my eggs in one basket, and I didn't prepare for life. I didn't prepare for life after football. What do you do when the cheering stops? And you didn't prepare for life. How do you go out and get a 9 to 5? These are the kind of things that I didn't prepare myself for. See, I had to tell myself, you are smart enough, Tim. You do know, and I had to surround myself with the type of people that would pull on my potential. Not with the people that told me what I wanted to hear, but the people that would tell me no. Throughout my career, even in college and in the NFL, I had a bunch of what we call yes people in my circle.
Right.
Nobody ever told me no. I see the essence of it in athletes today. By the time we get caught and we get in trouble when it's publicized nationally all over the world, guess what? We've gotten away with it a million times.
It's too late by then.
Jared, I was one of those kids, man. I poured so much into sports. You wasn't going to get me to drink alcohol in high school. You wasn't going to get me to smoke marijuana. I wasn't doing anything, nothing going to come between me and my athletic gift. Now, I said these things because in my community, it was alcohol infested. And I watched people die of alcoholism. And I made a judgment at a very young age. I would never be like these people. Be careful when you say never, because you will get challenged with it one day. How did that challenge come, Jared? It came to me through peer pressure. The peer pressure came, it came in a place when I was doing well, when I was on top of the world. And see, when you're doing well, people want you to be involved, want to be your friends. People are offering you things. They're offering you drugs. They're offering you alcohol. All of a sudden, I gave into it.
The moment you think it won't be you, or the moment you think you're not going to be susceptible, is the moment you're susceptible. I listened to you and heard your story, and you mentioned several things. One being going from being a favorite to that favoritism. Let's unpack that real quick, and just the effects of that favoritism and that you felt because you were an elite athlete at such a young age and incredibly talented. What do you think that did to you? And what led to you even recognizing that? And how do you think somebody else, they could call that out or see that in their own lives?
What led to it, favoritism, was it led to entitlement.
Yeah.
Okay. I felt entitled because even in high school, bringing all the attention to the high school itself, bringing the media, then followed down the hall by cameras, news media, interviews and things that back then was not normal. But see, it's normal today because we have so much. Nothing's private today.
Right.
Everything's out in the open. But back then it was a mystery. And so it led to an entitlement. But see, at a very young age, between 14 and 15, I began to really see how my athletic gift drawed a certain type of people to me. Even adults, man, that were doing things for me that wasn't normal. Even coaches that didn't tell me no.
The world we live in today, like you said, nothing is private anymore. Cameras are everywhere. There's Instagram stories, Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook, you name it. It's all being documented. You were in a different era, but you felt the same issues, the same pressures, the same struggles that a lot of, highly touted athletes are facing today. How did you deal with that?
Deep on the inside of me and in my heart, there was a humility, because one of the things I didn't do, Jared, is I didn't just rely on my athletic ability when it came to competing. See, I put in the work. Now, you got to remember, I said I took the energy, that negative energy that I felt and that lie that I believe about myself for not being smart enough, and I added it on to the energy that thing that I was strong in. I knew if you came on the football field or on the track or on the baseball diamond or even on the basketball court, I was going to outwork you. I was going to outrun you. I was going to out-jump you, and I was going to pound you.
Let's go.
So there was a humility there. Also, there was a false humility. Yeah, that false humility came in me believing that lie. I was loud in action on the field, competing.
Right.
Okay? I didn't talk junk, but I was loud in my actions. I didn't say anything. I just showed up and I competed. Yeah. But that false humility came because I knew deep down on the inside, I'm not smart enough. If they only knew that I'm not good in school. So really there's a pride there, because false humility is nothing but pride, because it made me afraid to apply myself and to have people. I even blocked people from pulling on my intellectual potential.
One, you're not alone in that false humility. I think about when I first entered into the workforce, coming from my athletic background. Now I'm in a, professional setting. I felt a ton of false humility. And so I think for our other listeners who may not have that athletic background, how could you expand on that false humility where you may have felt that, or you've seen others feel that in a professional setting?
After football, I'll say, for instance, first of all, I went through a season in my life where I didn't prepare myself for life. So I didn't invest. I lost everything. I literally lost everything, and I had to start over from the ground up. God has just redeemed and restored and steady restored and building my life. And I'm finally in a place where I know who I am. I know who I am. So now I'm not afraid to go out into the workforce. I'm not afraid. I believe that after football, that all I could do was maybe coach, not anything negative toward coaching, but it's something that I knew, or Anything outside of sports would probably be factory working, running forklifts, stuff like just that blue collar, hard working, hands on stuff that now the body really don't want to do because of all the football injuries. You know what I mean?
Right.
So in so many ways, Jared, I was forced to think for myself. And I was forced, and I asked God to help me, and God put people in my life that began to pull on my potential.
Yeah.
One of the things that He pulled out of me was my gift to communicate, to speak. I never knew I had that gift, but when you think about it, deep down on the inside, I did know I had it but I was just afraid of it.
See, I want to hit these 2 points. The first, you said the identity, and that you really had to find out who you are. And then 2, you said, and getting around a certain type of people who would pull that potential out of you. And obviously, we all have different people in our lives. If you can just think back, what were some of the qualities of those people who you found who really pulled the potential out of you? Because I want our audience to then think about those people in their lives and how they could seek them out.
And this is the part that's work needs to be done, because this is the process. We all want instant gratification. We all want right now. But there's some things, maybe the great supernatural things in life, it's going to be a process.
Yeah.
Okay. And that process came when the people that was really pulling on my potential. Now, I mentioned earlier that there was a teacher when I was in the 4th grade that called me stupid. Okay. But also I had a few teachers that knew who I was as a student, as a young man, and they tried their best to pull on my potential in that area. But the other side of me had gotten so stronger that I could brush that off. Because guess what? I was going places, and they saw it. I didn't have to see it. They saw it for themselves. And they would tell themselves, hey, this kid's going to do something. This kid's going to play professional ball. He's going to do something. But in the back of their minds, they're saying, but he still needs to get a great education. The guys and the people that I had in my circle that tried to get me to save money, those guys that said no, the people that said no to me, guess what? I'm a grown man now. I have some authority. I'm in this position. Here's the entitlement, okay? You're fired.
Yeah.
So because I was so used to the yes men. Right. I was used to everybody telling me yes, whatever I wanted. And the couple of people that told me no, I fired them. Why? Because I was afraid of that authority.
How do you be driven by faith, be driven by, your belief system, be driven by, who is for you rather than that fear? That I think that's the question of the day. That might be the question of the day is what is driving you? And if it's fear, why is that fear driving you? That's the question of the day right there for the audience. But Tim, man, I want to keep going because the beautiful thing is the journey doesn't stop there. You made the transition from professional sports, and now in your role as a co-founder of Worley Global Enterprises. Talk to us about the formation of that. How have you been able to build that business?
Worley Global Enterprises came about almost 10 years ago. I lost everything at around 2000. I had to go back home to Lumberton, North Carolina, and move back in with my mother and my father. That's when the work began for me, because I had to work my way through shame, because I was the big wheel, I was the big hat, the big first rounder, the big millionaire that everybody celebrated me when I came home.
Yeah.
But when I went down and I lost everything because of drug and alcohol abuse and frivolous living, guess what? The same people, Jared, that was saying, Hosanna, Hosanna, when I came home that year, they were saying crucified. Oh, he ain't done. See, I knew that was going to happen. I knew it. You're working through the shame. You're working through the hurt. And around that time, I was pointing my fingers at other people. But it wasn't until I began to look in the mirror and point the finger at myself and took responsibility for my choices. That's when I began to say, wait a minute, there's a whole nother chapter to this life. And that's when humility came, Jared. And it's when I humbled myself and I prayed and I asked God to help me. And when I committed myself, that's when I began to see other things that God put on the inside of me. gave me a gift to communicate. He gave me a gift to speak. He gave me a gift to teach. And here it is. I'm thinking I'm an idiot. Pride kept me from seeing that side of me. And so when I humbled myself, the speaking gift came out. It came out. That was the biggest fear of my life, Jared, was standing up in front of people and talking about serious matters or going to jail. Guess what? I did both of them. I'm still in a process of getting my life together, getting back on my feet. Yeah. And the good Lord put me around people that cared for me and loved me. But in that process, I was able to work and get back on my feet. And finally, I was able to move to Atlanta in 2006 to be closer to my son and my daughter. And finally, in 2008, I hit a point again where, I got to a point, Jared, where, man, I didn't want to live anymore. I didn't want to live anymore because I was straddling the fence and I was half-stepping. I was half-stepping when it came to my relationship with Christ because a piece of the world was still pulling me. And I have yet to let go of the past. And see, when we have a foot in the past, we can't receive what God has for us in the present or the future. And that thing kept pulling me. See, it's one thing to let it go and let God bring that platform forward, but it's one thing to let it go and you bring it forward. But see, I had to let it go completely and God brought it forward. That's what I use today. But in 2008, I had reached a moment in my life where I was depressed. I was lonely. I was a has-been. And April 13, 2008, I didn't want to live no more, man. And basically, when it came down to it, I pushed everybody away.
And so when you were at that point, April 2008, what propelled you to make that next step? What propelled you? What got you out of that rut, that gutter, that darkness?
April 13th, well, it started out April 12th, 2008, 10 o'clock in the morning. But I reached the point, Jared, where I was like, listen, I don't want to live anymore. I'm not going to take myself out, but I'm going to put myself in harm's way so somebody can take me out.
Yeah.
So, I left the apartment 10 o'clock, 10:30 in the morning, stopped by the liquor store, grabbed a case of beer and headed to Atlanta in my vehicle, down the case of beer from Cartersville to Atlanta before I even hit the city of Atlanta. So that was insane. I'm on a death mission, okay? Get with some of my so-called friends. They partying, using drugs and everything and drinking, partying all the way up into the wee hours of the morning at 3 a.m. in the morning.
Wow.
And I walk out of a sports bar in Smyrna, Georgia, and I look to the left, and there's two police officers, Smyrna police officers. They're about 100 feet, maybe 150 feet from the sports bar. And so I walk up to their car about 30 to 50 feet out, and I yelled and gestured with my hand, "Hey, follow me." Now, I'm drunk. I've been drinking and partying all day. I'm looking for a fight. That's how dark it had gotten, Jared. And so I get in my vehicle. They immediately get behind me. And I'll never forget looking at the clock when they stopped me. I think it was like 3:18 in the morning, something like that. And police officers start giving me commands. I get out of the car. He's not moving too fast for me, so I get irritated. I'm trying to pick a fight. And he went and put the cuffs. He could smell the alcohol. He went and put the cuffs on me. And when he went to lock the cuffs on my wrist, I stepped to the side and I swatted his face with my left hand. Now, Jared, today I would be dead in my grave.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I was thinking he was going to take his weapon out and put a bullet in my heart, but he didn't do that. And then he tried to spray me with pepper spray and I turned my back. And so I immediately started walking away fast and I was hoping he would shoot me in the back, but he didn't do that either. He took his taser out. And let me tell you something, man. I don't know what they jacked that thing up to, the volts or whatever, but whatever he jacked it up to, that thing dropped me like a bad habit. That thing dropped me. He got me on the ground. By that time, I was surrounded by Smyrna police officers, man. Yeah. They got the cuffs on me, threw me in the back of the police car, man. I was shouting and singing all kind of explicit words and this and that. And it was about 6:30 in the morning, about 7. I seen the sun coming through the window, Jared. And I realized, when the alcohol wore off, I could feel the taser. My heart was fluttering from the electricity, right? When I realized what happened, I got out on my knees, man. and I repented and asked God to restore me, and I thank him for saving my life. God saved my life, Jared. He put a
Yeah.
police officer, he put an angel in a police officer's uniform, not to kill me, but to save my life. He tased me, did what he had to do, and got me off the streets. And from that day, from that time, April 13th, 2008, my life has radically changed.
When you were, in the cell or going through that whole thing, did it ever cross your mind that you were a first round draft pick? That's, in a sense, you had reached that height. Did that ever cross your mind, or is that something that was forgotten?
To me, I didn't even think about it because I spent 23 days in jail. Okay.
Yeah.
And I told the Lord, I said, listen, I will not walk out that door, that cell, until you open up the door.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting in jail beside some of the other prisoners, right? And we got the TV on. Guess who's on the TV? They on the news. My face.
Wow.
The guy sitting behind me talking about, that's you, man. You know what I mean? Let me get your autograph. I'm like, man, go ahead on. But see, the thing is, I didn't think about it, me being a first rounder. You know what, Jared? I had joy. You know what I said? I said, it's over.
Yeah.
I can move forward now. I said, it's over, man. I can move forward now because I had put that part of me. I could stop carrying around this persona, this mass of
Yeah.
this big, strong, once first round draft pick that played in the NFL. So what? It's over now. And so I sat there with a smile on my face every day for 23 days until God sent the man of God to come and let me out and give me an opportunity.
Tim, that's just an incredible testament to who you are. And I think I want to end our show by really you being able to articulate how, again, everything that you went through has now prepared you for where you are today. And what you're doing through Worley Global Enterprises is phenomenal. How did you develop your business acumen? How did you, learn everything that you need to know in order to be a successful businessman? But obviously, there's work required to do that. Whether people you met, books you read, events you went to, what led to that development, and then how have you, in a sense, maintained that?
Well, first of all, I want to say it's all the grace and mercy of God.
Yeah.
Secondly, humility. I believe, Jared, that there's levels of humility. I reached a level of humility where I was able to let go of my pride, and I was able to let that go and to give myself permission to open up my mind and my heart to be able to learn again. There's a process, but here's the process. Now, everything happened to me. I spent that time in jail. I get out, I get an opportunity. This is when the process of the dream and the vision and the purpose of my life begins. It all started back when I exit the womb, but here's when I begin to see it and understand, okay, football was just a season in my life. Now here's the rest of my life. What was I purpose for? Now here's the process. Number one, I had to be healed. I had to go through a process of being healed. What did that look like? It looked like Christian rehabilitation, Christian recovery. Okay? Christian recovery for me because I was addicted to cocaine and alcohol and addicted to a lifestyle. All I wanted to do was take that time and devote that time to the Lord. And I call it my own personal sabbatical, which was about a year. I had to pull up that belief, that root system that I told myself I wasn't smart enough. Okay?
You had to build a new foundation.
I had to build a new foundation. And in that process, God began to show me who I am in Him. Now, a year after all this is happening, I'm seeing my life being restored and things building up, but I'm still working through stuff. I'm still working through shame. I'm still working through being afraid of what people are going to say. You know what I mean? Because of my downfalls. But at the same time, that's when He sent me, my beautiful bride, back into my life. When I did an about face with the Lord and committed to Him, 1 year later, He brought the woman that was supposed to be in my life. The whole time He brought her back. And we reconnected. And what she was already doing, we formed our business with that. Okay? I was a speaker. She's in branding, marketing, and PR, copywriting. She's an editor. And so we formed this thing together. We prayed and asked God His will for us. And that's how it became Worley Global Enterprises. And my leg of it is leadership development. When I humble myself, there were other things on the inside of me that I was interested in, and I didn't just brush off. You know, I was interested in Les Brown and John C. Maxwell. You got the leadership group gurus. I go get a John C. Maxwell certification to be a certified speaker, to be a certified mentor and coach. So I go to Robert Rahm and get a personality certificate, a personality insights certificate, you know, being certified in those things because I love people. And basically what I'm doing, I'm sharpening my tool. You know, I'm finding another creative side that God put on the inside of me. And this thing has just been getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And I've reached a level where he's put me in a position to do corporate leadership, speaking to corporate groups in the business world. This guy that used to think that he wasn't smart enough, now I'm in here doing this thing. Here's the key. Stay humble. Stay humble. Stay teachable. Okay? Stay humble, stay teachable, and always keep a servant's heart.
Creativity, it's a muscle.
Yes.
You know, you have to work it, but the more you work it, you just said, you know, you're hungry for it now.
Yeah.
You're getting stronger and stronger and more. And you went from a place where you didn't even feel qualified to be in a classroom.
Ooh.
And now you're organizing the classroom.
Yeah.
And it's just the irony in that whole situation. So, Tim, kind of the last section of the show here, we just call it final thoughts. You, in a sense, being able to summarize, you know, everything that you said or a certain message that you really want the listeners to take away.
Once again, my thoughts is, listen, we were all created for purpose, and it's up to us to find out the purpose that God put in us. Now, God's purpose for your life will not automatically come to pass. You have to be a willing participant. See, you don't figure out these things, you discover them. And you go from level to level to glory, okay? He's not a God of lottery. He's a God of levels. And so you discover these things along the way. There were things that I wanted even 5 years ago, but God said, no, not yet. Because why? He was waiting for my character to be developed. And if my character, if he would have gave it to me 5 years ago, I would have wrecked it just like I wrecked my NFL career. So now there's that patience. The Bible says there's patience brings endurance. You stay teachable, you stay humble, you stay faithful, and you stay obedient, and God will fight your battles. He's the one who's bringing one down and sets one on high.
Talent will take you places your character won't keep you.
Oh, yeah.
And so being able to be consistent in your character. It's just consistent character, consistent obedience, the ability to remain steadfast. Again, the ability for you just to remain. So any listener out there who's struggling with doubt, you know, feeling like, you know, like Tim said, I'm not good enough or I'm not smart enough, I don't belong here. Maybe it's that imposter syndrome or false humility or, you know, that feeling of insecurity. Understanding that if you let that drive you, you're only going further away from your purpose.
Right.
And being able to lean into those things that may feel uncomfortable for a time, being able to seek out people who will realize that potential, being able to, in a sense, find and understand your identity fully,
right,
where you can be you. But Tim, I just want to thank you for sharing your story. You're never too far gone. There's always room to change. It takes a step, though, that your purpose requires participation.
That's right.
But until you participate in what is in a sense called for you, you're not going to experience.
That's right.
Last question: Where can we find you? You know, what are your social handles or website? How could our audience get in touch with you if they want to learn more about your story?
Okay, my website is worleyglobalenterprises.com. My Twitter handle is @WorleyGlobalBiz. And my Facebook is facebook.com/WGEINC. Hey, Jared, can I say one more thing before we break?
Yeah, man, go ahead.
It's that thing that I learned that set me free. A lot of times, the things that we resist when it comes to tough people being tough on you. I found out as a little kid, those teachers, those coaches that were tough on me, that gave it to me straight and that said no to me. those are the ones that I needed.
Yeah.
And it's that thing that we resist, that we avoid, even in a spouse. That's the thing that we need the most. That thing that you resist, that irritates you about your mate or friend, that gets on your nerves, but you know deep down in your spirit that it's the truth. That's exactly what you need. And stop running from it. Confront it. Confront it. Deal with it. Watch that liberty come.
I love it. I love it. Tim, you got me fired up.